This free step-by-step video comes to you directly from Haynes, creators of the world's best repair manuals. Fix your car or truck the right way with our accurate and reliable information at your side. You can complete more than 200 jobs on this vehicle when you purchase the complete online manual at Haynes.com.
Drive axle replacement. Pull the hood release lever located on the driver's side kick panel. Lift the hood safety latch and raise the hood upwards. Support the hood with a prop rod. Loosen and remove the cable nut from the remote battery ground terminal, then disconnect the remote negative battery cable. Secure the cable aside to prevent accidental reconnection. Wrapping electrical tape around the exposed cable end is also a good idea while work is being commenced. Apply the handbrake. Chock the rear wheels to prevent the vehicle from rolling. Loosen the front wheel lug nuts, then raise the front of the car and support it on jack stands. Remove the wheel for the drive axle being replaced. Loosen the drive axle hub nut with a large socket and breaker bar. To prevent the hub from turning while you're loosening the drive axle nut, wedge a pry bar between two of the wheel studs. If an assistant is available, having them depress the brake pedal while loosening the nut will also work. Loosen the nut from the tie rod end ball stud a few turns. Separate the tie rod end from the steering knuckle arm with a ball joint separator. The metal plate may need to be bent in order to sufficiently fit the ball joint separator's teeth into the joint. Remove the separator tool and fully remove the nut. Then detach the tie rod end from the steering knuckle. To avoid stressing or damaging the brake hose, remove the brake hose bracket mounting bolt from the fender well and detach the bracket. Remove the cotter pin and loosen the lower control arm ball joint nut a few turns. Separate the ball joint stud from the steering knuckle with a ball joint separator. Remove the nut, then separate the control arm from the steering knuckle using a pry bar to aid in this process. Although not absolutely necessary, it may provide better access for the removal of the drive axle by removing the brake caliper mounting bracket bolts, hanging the caliper and bracket assembly safely aside with a wire, then sliding off the brake disc. Completely remove the drive axle hub nut. If the drive axle splines are frozen, free them by tapping the end of the drive axle with a soft face hammer or a hammer and a brass punch. If the drive axle splines still cannot be unfrozen from the hub, spray some penetrating lubricant and use a puller with the brake disc removed to unfreeze the splines. Using caution to avoid damaging the brake hose if the caliper is still installed, pull out on the steering knuckle and detach the drive axle from the hub. Rest the outer CV joint of the drive axle carefully aside, taking care not to overextend the joints for the remainder of the procedure. Place a drain pan underneath the transaxle to catch any lubricant that may spill out when the drive axles are removed. If you're removing the left drive axle, carefully pry the inner CV joint out of the transaxle and remove the drive axle assembly. On axles with a center bearing bracket, remove the two bolts that secure the bracket to the block. Then gently tap the bearing bracket with a plastic hammer to separate the inner shaft from the transaxle. When installing, tighten the center bearing bracket bolts to 30 foot-pounds. Carefully guide the new or overhauled drive axle into the transaxle. Make sure the new drive axle is fitted with a new circlip and that it seats into the transaxle once the drive axle splines have been fully inserted. If desired, apply anti-seize compound to the outer drive axle splines to prevent them from sticking in the hub on future removal. Then pull out on the knuckle and hub assembly and insert the outer splines into the hub. Insert the ball joint stud through the hub assembly, using a pry bar to help lift the hub assembly if necessary. Install the lower control arm ball joint nut. Tighten the nut to the specified torque setting. Install a new cotter pin through the ball joint stud. Tighten the nut slightly to allow the cotter pin to be inserted through the holes. Never loosen the nut to align the hole with the castellations in the nut. Install the tie rod end ball joint into the steering knuckle arm. Be sure to bend the metal plate back into its original position. Install a new tie rod end ball joint nut and tighten it to the specified torque setting. Make sure the lower control arm to steering knuckle ball joint protective plate is bent back into position. If removed previously, install the brake disc, then position the brake caliper bracket assembly over the disc and install the mounting bolts. Tighten the caliper mounting bolts to the specified torque setting. Install the brake hose bracket onto the fender well body. Tighten the mounting bolt securely. Install the drive axle hub nut. Using the method described previously to prevent the hub from turning, tighten the drive axle hub nut to the specified torque setting. Install the front wheel and lug nuts. Lower the car to the ground and tighten the wheel lug nuts to the specified torque setting. Connect the remote negative battery cable to the stud terminal on the body. Screw on the cable securing nut and tighten the nut securely.